Welcome to the Journey of Self-Growth podcast, episode 24. I'm ThE, the host of this event, which is created so myself and others can share perspective on the concept of it in hopes that one another's journeys will be relatable, establishes awareness, and inspires listeners to adopt and maintain such behavior. The definition of self-growth is the process of developing new skills, attitudes, actions, or reactions that can have a beneficial impact on your life and increases your overall well-being. Tonight's featured guest is a friend of mine and also a California native, similar to myself. Her name is Miss Rasheeda Gaines. Hello, Rasheeda. How are you?
Peace and love, brother. How are you? Peace and love. I'm well.
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm glad you decided to put forth the initiative to venture into the unknown with me in hopes that we can both grow in this experience and inspire growth in one another and hopefully as well as the listeners.
Okay.
Also, if you are a listener and are desiring to be a guest on the show, you're encouraged to do so by reaching out to me through Instagram. My Instagram handle is Kite Raps, which is listed below. Or also, you can also post a comment in the tonight's episode chat on YouTube, and leave your handle for your Instagram, and I will attempt to reach out to you when I have an opportunity. As we and also if you would like to pose a comment to Rasheeda and myself, you can do so on Instagram. I mean on YouTube, and we will try to address that when we have an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Rasheeda, what can you tell me about yourself?
First and foremost, thank you for having me this evening. It is a pleasure uh, to rap with people of like mind on this journey that we call life, as we delve into self-growth. What I can tell you about myself is first and foremost, I'm a San Francisco native, California at its best, the best part from the Bay. Um, but really more so about myself on a serious note. I'm a person of Kemetic descent. I'm a woman of Kemetic descent. I am a mother. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a health advocate. I am a seeker of the truth and knowledge, and all around good person.
I'm not familiar with the term Kemetic descent. What can you tell me about this term?
Well, Kemet. We'll go with Kemet. The place of that we know as Africa. Its origin name, I guess, would be Kemet. The Kemetic people, the people that live there, they called it Kemet. I'm pretty sure most of us by this time we know that Africa, what we know as Africa, was named after the person who colonized it. Can't remember his first name, but his last name was Africanus or Africus. So they took variations of his name and they named the entire continent. But I want to go a little bit, well, not I want to, I did go a little bit deeper. And a lot of places that we live here on Turtle Island, are named after a colonizer. They're not the actual given names or the names that the people that were already on them before they got colonized called them. So I went ahead with Kemetic. So in my findings and in my research, I found that Kemet, Kemet, is what the land of Africa, what we know as Africa, was originally called.
I was unaware of such information. I appreciate you elaborating and being insightful regarding this these historical factoids. um, so the next question I want to ask you is, what would be your concept of the what would be your concept on what would be your perspective on the concept of self growth?
Now, self growth is a heavy term because as people, we should always growth should be continuous, right? So
Yeah.
my concept on self growth would be a desire to improve myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that desire should last throughout the days. Each and every day, we should have a desire to improve ourselves. So my concept on self growth is the desire to improve, and wanting to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not only that, now that you have the desire to improve, how does one put that into motion or into effect? You got to have some tools, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of people, you say, "Oh, I'm gonna go. I have this tool now. I'm gonna go use it." First, you have to identify the tool first, because when a carpenter goes in to do a project, I mean, I said carpenter, but when a person goes in to do a project, they can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna bring a hammer." You might need a screwdriver, So you need to go in and identify the tools that you need first in the desire to grow yourself. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
then utilize those tools. So my concept or my perspective on self growth is a three-parter. It's the desire to want to continuously grow, identifying the tools, and then utilizing the tools to grow.
I can relate to that, and I am intrigued by your perspective uh, when it comes to referencing tools to assist in growth. The way I interpreted that statement is tools can also be symbolic of s- being strategic and in terms of situations and circumstances that may be presented to us in the present moment, and um, having a sense of awareness of when to use particular strategies or resources for the given circumstance.
Right. Yeah.
Is that a fair interpretation of what you were speaking on?
Actually, yes, it is a very it's almost spot on, because not in order, as we navigate these things, you have to identify. It's all about identification. Once you can identify things, you can further utilize what you've identified to help make yourself in your life better.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
tools would be that. Yeah, you don't want to use um, a hammer for a screwdriver job. You don't want to use a power drill for something you can use a hoe for. You know what I'm saying? You got to have the right tools. So identifying the tools is the most important part, I feel, for myself. Is identifying the tools that you need. Because a handyman has a lot of tools, but if you don't know, you can't identify what the tool is and or know how to use it. It doesn't matter.
Mm, okay. I like how you said like you're passionate about the identification of the tools, which
Yes.
I can relate to because when it comes to utilizing my abilities and skills, I'm very passionate about being self aware or aware in general so that I can be efficient and execute uh, to the best of my capabilities. And I
Okay.
think that is similar to what you were referencing.
Yes.
So, mm-hmm, yeah.
Yes.
My next question is, how are you currently growing?
Whew. It's continuous. You know, it's really continuous. That's actually a good question, and my growth is forever evolutionary. It's forever changing, um, and I could say being honest with myself is how I'm navigating through this portion of my life in growth. Um, because we can fool a lot of people. I've been told I have a gift to gab. I've been told I can communicate well, but all of those things mean nothing if you're not being truthful with yourself. So
Mm,
for myself, on my perspective of self growth, is always being unapologetically authentic within yourself. A lot of people could call it shadow work because we have a lot of things that have helped us build into who we are,
mm-hmm.
but some things lay in the shadow, you know. And in order to get to your highest growth potential, you got to bring everything out of the shadow and put that rosebud right into the sun so it can get that enough energy to continue to grow and blossom, you know.
Yes. And what intrigued me about what you recently stated was you said how I'm currently growing is being truthful to myself, which could be alluding to that there was a point in your life where you weren't being truthful to yourself. Um, is that is that something that you've experienced?
Yes. Oh, that's very accurate. um I'm 43 years old. Just to put, you know, I don't have a I'm not a woman that's ashamed of my age, but I'm 43 years old. I've known myself for quite some time. And I've known different versions of myself. Um, before I'm a mother now, and I have a toddler. My son will soon be 3. Prior to having him, um, there was a time, I would say about five, 4 or 5 years before I had my son. Um, I went into a place of peace within self. I decided to look myself into the mirror and said, the way that you're living now, it's not good for you. And how I found that it wasn't good for me is because I found that I was doing a lot of lying to myself, you know?
Mm,
And that's the most detrimental part about anything. You'll have a few good days, but you'll revert back to wherever you were. For me, I like to use words negative and positive. So
mm-hmm.
I found myself in a very negative space, and I found myself reverting back to this negative space always. And it was because I was being inauthentic within myself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I was being very inauthentic within myself. So as I did did enough shadow work for that portion of my life, I did enough shadow work. I felt that I was at my highest vibration. I felt like I was living within my purpose in positivity, and a lot of people that met me in that space absolutely loved me because I was being my most authentic self. But things happen, circumstances. A lot of outward stuff because remember the concept of growing, of self growth, is ever continuous. I got very complacent within that time frame before I had my son, and I was really just cool with being right there. I didn't continue to grow, so a lot of the negative attributes started to come back in. So now living I'm not living truthfully because once the negativity started coming in, a lot of the negative aspects started to come back, and a lot of that was telling myself untruths, you know, so lying to myself. So yeah, being truthful, that's a real, there's multiple layers to that as well, but to just scratch the surface for sure. There was definitely some times that I was very untruthful with myself, um, and made myself believe the untruths as well. You know, I'm a great convincer at times too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that you had a realization of a shift in conduct and behavior for yourself with the intention to enhance and refine yourself. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
also glad that you were able to um, see yourself through such circumstances. What I'm curious to know is that you said um, when you were lying to yourself, you said you were experiencing negative forces.
Mm-hmm.
Would was those negative was that negative energy internal, external, or was it a combination of both?
For myself, it was a lot of um, inner turmoil, um, bouts with myself. However, when you're going through something, when people are, well, I won't say people, when I'm dealing with something, it seems to come out in a very negative way with the people that are the closest around me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe it's because they are able to pick up on the frequency of my inauthenticity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's, yeah, it comes out, yeah, it can get real negative and it can show in other people and it can show in my surroundings and it can show a lot, which basically makes you think or makes me think. Something has to give. It's not
Mm-hmm.
everybody else. Who is it? It's me. I'm the common factor. I'm the common denominator. This is my universe. So how do I control my universe? Oh, let's be truthful with ourselves. Because how do we get here? You know, for instance, if it's like a disagreement, now everybody's not going to agree. We just went through an election. I'm definitely not going to speak much on that, but I said that to say that we all know that everybody's not going to agree, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in not agreeing, why do things have to get so heated? You know, in not agreeing, why do things have to get so lost in translation and misunderstood? We're just not agreeing, and that's actually okay. We're human
Mm-hmm.
beings. We shouldn't all think the same. We should be able to share ideologies without anyone flying off the handle. But for myself, when I'm having these negative experiences and I'm not being truthful with myself and I'm allowing negativity to come into my space, I find that a simple did you pour the water out can turn into World War III. And it's just because it's something that's inauthentic about myself that's allowing these negative forces to come through to me. Because when I was living at my highest vibration, none of those things were ever happening. It would be like I was guarded, if you will,
Mm.
guarded by authenticity. Because when you're authentic, things flow. When you're
Yes.
inauthentic, there's a lot of bumps in the road.
That was going to be my follow up question. My follow up question was going to be as a result of you altering your course of behavior from sensing negativity and desiring to be more authentic with yourself, what was what would be some examples of positive energy that you found to be delightful as a result of your change of behavior?
For myself personally, the very, very first thing I did when I decided to live my truth was I changed what I ingested, and I'm not just speaking about food, because I did start a health and wellness business, which was a passion of mine. But I changed what I ingested. It was more so I kind of stopped watching sports so much. It's entertainment. Nothing is wrong with sports, but I noticed that was a chokehold. It wasn't really serving me. What
Mm-hmm.
what am I getting with these 2 hours outside of probably a hoarse voice? And that was also noticed that it had an emotional hold on me. If my team would lose or something like that, so I said, "Oh, that's actually something that's outside of myself. That's not really serving me. So
Mm-hmm.
let me move past that." So I stopped watching TV. The long-winded version of what you asked was I stopped watching TV. Um, I connected more with just being outside. I was always I'm a child of the '80s. We were always outside, but connected more with the nature part of being outside. Went to go seek things that actually brought me a peace and a calm, and were more in alignment with where I was in life and how I was actually feeling. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of that had to do with hiking and walking. I'm not gonna say it because California is a big state, but I've tried to go to plenty of trails from Auburn, California, all the way down to SoCal. Well, all the way down to like LA, not past Los Angeles, but to hit little trails and hikes and peaks and valleys and regional trails and things like that. So those were a lot of the things that I did to bring me from a negative aspect of living to a more positive aspect of living. And within doing so, I noticed that life was a lot better. My quality of life was a lot better when I wasn't being inauthentic with myself.
Mm. I'm glad you were able to have opportunities to go and visit these various trails throughout California, which possibly many people have not. So to
You
have those type of opportunities, I think is amazing. And for me, I enjoy going on walks and hikes as well. And
okay?
what the outcome that I encounter as a result of taking that type of initiative is enhancing my perspective on just the world, because to go somewhere you haven't been before and reach that location, it helps you just to appreciate life even better, because now you have seen something that you have never seen before, and it helps you to like better relate to the world, at least in my opinion.
Hmm. Absolutely. Getting out is getting out the box is literally you getting out the box. Um,
Hmm.
no matter where you're from. I'm from San Francisco. But in my upbringing, I had the luxury of not being stuck in San Francisco. A lot of people are a product of their environment, and that being not in a negative way, basically meaning that they you live there, you go to school there, and by the time you go to work, you don't really venture off that far away from work. Just as of late, people will drive 2 or 3 hours to get to work. But beforehand, most people only lived about 10, 15 minutes away from where they worked. So you're pretty much just in a little bubble, a little bubble. So that same course of thinking is in within that bubble. But as soon as you get outside that bubble, you like, oh, what? Like some people put sugar on their grits. Some people put salt and pepper, but if you just stay in the box where everybody puts sugar on it, you're not thinking outside the box, and you might realize that I actually like the salt and pepper better, but you only know that when you get outside the box.
Yes. You had mentioned earlier too, going back to uh, being intentional about self being intentional about authenticity,
Hmm.
and how you uh, did not enjoy the the negative energy, and also being bold and courageous enough to go outside of the your comfort zone. And something that I was wanting to mention in a previous podcast was that it seems like there's two courses when it comes to experiences outside of ourselves. And
Hmm.
it seems like one course is a course of enabling, where
Hmm.
the other course would be a course of sustainability and supportiveness.
Hmm.
And I think and I think God or the universe does not restrict us as individuals from going either way. But I think when if we take the course of enabling, is more so to an experience that would, I guess, give us an excuse to stay in that box or into that comfort zone. I think about various types of experiences that I feel like are enabling detrimental behavior, because the definition of enabling is basically trying to mitigate consequences,
Hmm.
such as if someone had um, was being abusive to someone else, and they told someone, like supposedly a friend or associate, like, oh, I did this to them because they did this to me, or they said something disrespectful to me. The A person who would be enabling that type of behavior would be saying like, yeah, they probably shouldn't have said that to you. So I get what you're saying. Versus someone who's authentic and aware of the situation and supportive of wanting to inspire that person to do better. They may tell them like, I don't think you should have did this because you're causing harm to someone where you could have had simply walked away and not engaged with them any further.
Right.
So like when I think about a bar, it seems to me like the intention for a bar is to enable a certain pattern of conduct and behavior for someone. If I went to a bar and I asked them to give me a drink, they're probably not going to tell me, like, you know what, I don't think I want to give you this drink because it could contribute to you becoming an alcoholic. They're
Right.
probably not going to say that because they want my money.
Hmm.
So, which seems intentional.
Right. So they're
So,
enabling.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's important to be aware of uh, circumstances that can either enable a person down a path of detriment compared to a path of sustainability and supportiveness. So then, if you have that awareness, you can steer clear of particular circumstances, and which can continue to result in your self growth. So I
That's
just
right.
wanted to say that as well.
I
Uh,
appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm curious. So I think I know. I have I would say a mild perspective on San Francisco, but when you had text me the area in San Francisco that you grew up, that name was unfamiliar to me. So what can you tell me about the neighborhood that you grew up in San Francisco?
Yeah. Lakeview. You know what I'm saying? Ingleside, what they call it on paper, but I'm from Lakeview. um, and that area, uh, it's just the truth, people. For all those that's listening, Lakeview and or Ingleside is one of the only areas in San Francisco that doesn't have a housing project. Um, so I come from an area that has a lot of home ownership. Um, and I know somebody's gonna say they do got them little projects on Randolph. It's like two fourplexes that the city operates. But when I'm speaking of public housing, we all understand what I'm thinking about. Multiple floors, multiple units. Generations of families have been there, But the area where I came from, not so much. It's by City College, which is pretty known. So if you get off like the Ocean Avenue area, and I just recently went back and it's all changed. It was a community driven area. My mother was from that area. I actually grew up around the corner from where my grandparents owned the house,
Mm-hmm.
where my mother and my aunties were raised.
Mm-hmm.
On Holloway, which was kind of like one of the main streets over there. There was a black owned store right across the street from another ethnicity ran store. These
Mm-hmm.
stores, well, Charlie's is still there, Coleman's isn't. Right up the street, it was another black owned store. It was a lot of people that resembled me in my neighborhood, and these were all homeowners. There were a few Caucasians, but they were kind of like moving out. I was born in 81, so you figure 91, 89, 90, 91. A lot of bike riding, a lot of the child of the '90s stuff. I have nothing but fond, great memories about San Francisco, California, USA. We used to go to the sundown and we used to climb up the sundown, just like real kid stuff, like literally getting on your bike and biking so far that you're going to get in trouble because you're not going to make it home before the street lights come on. Like that kind of fun and just pure pure. You know, when I think of San Francisco, I think of something being pure. And when I go back, it actually saddens me. It's a warm feeling, but it's a sad feeling. Um, because like a lot of my childhood is just gone. Like they're buildings now, and they're storefronts, and there's it's a whole bunch of stuff. You just like how they're building up everything. You can't even really see the sky. All you see is a lot of buildings. You know?
Wow. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully, the San Francisco that you remember can manifest at some point in the city will reverse back to a place of fond memories and enjoyment,
Hmm.
which I think is possible.
Yeah, yeah. Just minus the building. The buildings ain't they there now. They not going nowhere. They there now. But nah, San Francisco is a good place. It's a real good place. It's a real good place. I'm happy to be from there, truthfully.
What I was unaware of is that you had said this particular area, it was mostly houses more so than um, the
Real homes.
notoriously
Real
known
homes.
San Francisco projects.
Yeah.
And you said the owners were of African American heritage. What would you know? What type of industries these homeowners worked in order to afford to live and own these houses during that time?
Well, you figure a lot of these homes at this point would have been second generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom was born in 1953. My
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents, I want to say that they purchased that home in 55, 56. Because I know my mom went to when she left the hospital, she went to the flat that they owned on Unipacera, and then they bought this because the family's growing, right? My grandfather was a mailman. He was a post office master. And my grandmother owned her own shop. She was a beautician. Like she ran the shop. She owned and operated the shop, and she had people working for her. So that's what she did. I'm pretty sure in the area, more of the working class type of individuals who purchased the home. So this would be my grandparents. And then unfortunately, uh, I'm a child of the 80s, the crack epidemic and things like that. And then just the mass exodus of leaving out of San Francisco, maybe going back to the South. I'm not sure, but a lot of the homes, and I can say I saw this with my own eyes. A lot of the homes were being lost due to drug use or like failure to pay whatever bills and or selling the home because of deaths or things like that. And a lot of those working class people like my grandparents who purchased the homes, that next generation, which would have been my mom's generation, a lot of them lost it and or sold it. And these are all working class people. My mother worked for the city and county of San Francisco, and so did my father. They both did. So I had a pretty decent life. I enjoyed my life. I come from a working, if you go with the classes, I guess you could say definitely middle class, if not upper middle class,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So not the tech industry, which is what we know now. You know what I'm saying? They weren't like tech workers, but they were workers in service. My mom drove a bus, and my dad was a janitor. So
Yeah.
workers for sure. Not afraid
Wow.
to go get it. And funnily, myself, um, I work for a transportation company as a janitor. So I'm pretty much my mom and my dad rolled into one. you know, she was a transportation worker and he was a janitor, right? So I work for a transportation company as a janitor.
I'm glad that your family has a legacy of hardworking individuals and that seemingly also inspired you to uh, have that type of drive and passion in your life. Um, and so regarding business, you did mention that you are an entrepreneur. What can you tell me about your business?
So I own and operate Neteru Nutrition and Juices. I formulated this business based out of a passion. So when I was speaking to you earlier about that dark time that I really wanted to come out of, um, a fire that was already in me ignited.
Mm,
So let's go back a little bit further. We all were children. I think somewhere around 13, I told my mom, hey, I really don't want to eat meat anymore. So
mm,
I was one of the first people I knew that adapted the vegan vegetarian lifestyle.
mm,
Because I believe 1993 or 4, I was like 14, right? So this is
mm,
a while ago. So just to say, so I stopped eating chicken, beef, or pork. I never really liked seafood, so that wasn't on the plate for me as a child. So I stopped eating all those things. So the passion was already, or the foundation was already kind of like in the gut. I
mm,
knew that my body responded well. I was highly athletic as a child, but I knew that my body responded better to not having things bog me down. At that time, I couldn't have articulated that sentence, but it was just something that felt better. I didn't watch a documentary. I didn't read a book. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those things like, oh, I choose to live this way because I like animals, or I choose to live this way because I won't wear, fur on my feet. I love animals and all those things, but at the end of the day, it just what made me feel better and what made me feel good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Then around 16, 17, when I was working in Hilltop Mall, I met this guy, my boss, and he further enlightened me to um, more of the health perspective. So I had already, it was already something I was doing, but now it was more like a health perspective. Like, oh, you want to live a little bit longer. Like, you don't want to have that diabetes. Now, mind you, this is also 1998. I graduated high school in 99. So this is like 98. And he's telling me, you don't want to have diabetes. And it's just like, yeah. And I know about this because people in my family on my dad's side were already suffering from diabetes. So I was hearing these things. So it's like, yeah, you don't want to have that. You don't want to have that. And the food is going to give us this. So the passion for the business was already kind of like laying in me dormant. So fast forward to when I'm in my 30s and I'm clearing up myself. I'm looking myself in the mirror and I'm asking myself questions. I'm doing the shadow work, and it's just like, well, how do you translate this into something that not only helps you, can really help other people? Because now you look around. I mean, like I say, I'm in my 30s. I've had some friends pass away from health things, and to be in your 30s and to have a friend pass away for some health stuff, like some kidney type stuff, you it's a morality check, one, but two, it's just like, do we have to live like that? And at this point, we're in the information era. The internet is right here, everything's at the tip of your fingers. You really don't have to live like this. So
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and I started doing a lot of research. I took a few herbal courses. I didn't finish, so I can't call myself a herbologist, but I took a few herbal courses and I really just started understanding self. And it was from a desire to want to, I started understanding herbs, excuse me. It was from a desire to wanting to understand myself. Um, and while I was understanding myself, I was like my first guinea pig. So I tried this thing out and it worked. I felt great. And so I said, how can I formulate this into a business? It was kind of like an aha moment for myself. Like, this is what Jenny Craig was doing, like literally. No, seriously, this is how I formulated my business. Because when I thought about it, I thought back over my life and how my mom would go to Jenny Craig, not necessarily consistently, but kind of like off and on. Because, uh, my mom was first and foremost never morbidly obese, but the stuff can get kind of expensive. You got to buy all her meals, you got to do all of these things, but how many people can afford to cook for you to eat this way, but then you got your children that are eating this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she would go back and forth. But I modeled my business after that. I was like, I want people to come in. I want people to talk to me. I want to actually get to know you. I want to formulate the program where it's specifically designed to cater to you as the person. So I started Netaru Nutrition and Juices. And the easiest way to relate to people most times is by saying, well, you can do a juice cleanse. So that's how the juices portion came into it. Like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
can help you do some juicing. Oh, you want to do a 3-day juice? I can make you all your juices. So I started off with just doing juices, and then it segued into my detox program. And I don't want to say it segued; they were actually birthed of the same idea, and they had to come to a point. So I started off my business and started to gain my capital from just doing the juices, and it was just juices only. And then I sat down and I took time and I researched and I truly formulated a program based on my experiences and what I did. But I formulated a program where I had a booklet up, like a little booklet that I could give to you, and we can go through it. It was a 28-day detox program, where its aim is to get you to change your relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. My slogan is water the plant within, because what
Mm.
happens to a plant when you don't water it?
It dies.
And we are all living organisms, you and I, as well as plants, and we all need water. So that's where that all came from, and poof, a business happened. The idea itself started in 2016. And then I gave birth to it in 2017, and it pretty much is still going. I let it fall by the wayside, and this actually is going to help me restart and rebrand myself and put myself back out there. I did take time to be a mother and understand how to navigate our lives. It's just my son and I. Oh, he has a father for sure, but we're not together. So we figured all of that out, and now it's time to get the business back on.
Wow. I admire your ambitiousness. What um what do you enjoy in the process of creating your products?
Honestly, knowing that it's going to help people, like
Mm.
truly knowing it's going to help people, and really wanting them to change their way of thinking. You know,
Mhm.
nothing's going to happen overnight. If you're looking for like an easy overnight type thing, because I was told at first that I was really, really harsh, and I could see where I was very harsh because I was so passionate. Like you can't you can't change everything in 28 days, and that's not what my program's telling you. My program's jump starting you. So the passion to truly create and help people is what I get when I'm making the juice. Is what I get when I'm putting the herbs together to make you a gut flush or a kidney restoration or a full body detox, or even when I'm making chocolate. I make chocolate infused with sea moss. I sell sea moss. It's just the joys of knowing that someone is loving their self enough to love their self. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
And I'm not, and I'm by no means am I down talking anyone that eats the standard American diet. I believe that everybody should be happy in what they do and understand that sometimes, even in a happy decision, it could be detrimental.
Mm. What would be some expressions that you've experienced by some of your customers um, that have used your products?
Uh, Netaru is the truth is the one that sticks out the most. That's actually that was one of my favorite ones. Like Netaru is the truth. I'm like, oh yeah, thank you. Well, you said what are some of the slogans?
No, what have people expressed to you as a result of consuming your products?
Thank you. It works. I have a few customer reviews on my Instagram, so I always try to say that the stuff that's truly in my phone, I was gonna find a way to put it onto the website so you can see. But I've gotten customer reviews. I've had someone come and ask for assistance with getting their A1C down because they didn't want to take pills, and
Mm.
that's happened. So I've gotten a thank you. This happened and this is all I needed to do. Now, did they keep it down? I'm not sure, but at least they understand the tools on how to do it. So I get a lot of thank yous, a lot of people with gratitude. I've actually had one lady come back to me 3 times, for my detox potion. So the second time she came back, I was really happy. But that third time, I was like, it's because it's proof in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? But also proof that if you don't stay consistent within your ever um, in this cycle that we call life, if you don't stay consistent, because growth is you've gotten there once, you got to the peak, but sometimes the mountain keeps growing. You know what I'm saying? So you got to keep climbing.
Yeah.
So that third time, I told her, hopefully you sustain because albeit we'll take the money, but what are you getting out of it if every 18 months you're going to come back and do this? That means you're falling off. That means you're not staying consistent within yourself,
Yeah.
because clearly you don't want to be like this because you keep coming back. So let's
Yeah.
just stay consistent so we don't have to come back.
And it would seem, in comparison to a establishment with the intention to enable detrimental behavior, your business creates products that is intended to support the individual's growth and sustainability, which I also appreciate.
Absolutely. Because growth and sustainability, um, that's really, I'm not gonna say that's really all we have, but that's a big portion of life. You want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to grow, but you want to have the sustainability and the space to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to put one of those onion buds in a real small in a Capri Sun thing. It's not going to grow that much. It's not going to be sustainable. In 2 weeks, that onion is going to grow. It's going to bust out of that foundation. and it's going to need somewhere else so it can flourish, you know?
Mm,
So
yeah.
I try to give people a solid Teflon steel armored car foundation to stand on so they can remain sustainable, you know?
Yeah. Um, I I'm somewhat familiar with the term herbalist, and I think I have surface level knowledge and understanding of the importance of eating herbs. But for those who are unaware and are intrigued by what you mentioned earlier, what would be some um, resourceful information that can inspire them to want to uh, consume herbs?
Uh, you said what could I say, or what kind of book can I guide them to? I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh, the question is what resourceful information could you provide to listeners regarding the importance of consuming herbs?
To keep your body at a point of homeostasis, which is basically um, where we should be. You don't want to live in an acidic environment. You want to keep your body real pH. So putting the herbs into your body really can help you boost your iron levels. You know, so that's going to keep your blood flowing. Drinking a certain herb can also cleanse the pineal gland, which is going to have you thinking correctly, right? So all these things will um, add positive attributes to your life. So this is the reason why these herbs are here. And I know a sister friend who actually she does herbs in the hood. This is her niche. This is her thing. Literally, as we're walking down the street, you, I, or anyone else, and a lot of these urban cities that we're in, um, things grow wild that are herbs that are truly beneficial to us. For instance, go outside of your home. I know for sure. Go outside of my mom's home right now. You'll find dandelion. Dandelion is a green, and it's found literally my yard, your yard, the next door neighbor's yard. But it cleanses and purifies the blood as well as the kidney and the liver. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So this is something that's going to add a positive attribute to your life. So this is the reason why identifying herbs. So it goes back down to the identifying the tools that you need. So identifying the herbs that you need to consume them to have a more positive impact on your life. You know, overall health. Because if your lungs are clogged up, not saying that people smoke, but if you got mucus and stuff going on in your lungs, why not drink some linden flower to break up that mucus and then get all that mucus out? So now when you go outside and you take that first deep breath of fresh air when you wake up and you go outside, you actually get the benefits of taking in that oxygen and breathing out that carbon dioxide. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's the benefits of being resourceful and knowing herbs. A book I could say use or to reference would be the Herbal Encyclopedia. I actually started my herbal journey. I found a book of Native American herbs. Um, I know I'm not saying it right. It's like the parents, the prenatal. It's because it's definitely not prenatal. The perennial native plants of California. That's how I started because, of course, I'm a Californian. So I want to know what herbs are native to California, right? So that's the book
Yes.
I started on. It was about, I think it was around 40 or 45 herbs. And it was like a elementary read, kind of like a introductory how to, and it wasn't really boring. It had pictures, you know what I'm saying? So you could say, oh, this is a dandelion. Oh wow, this is chamomile. This is a marigold. This is, and these are the benefits. And so you see it all right here. So that's a reason to understand and know herbs.
Yes. My next question is, what's your favorite herb? And then the second question is, from your perspective, what would be the most valuable herb for an individual to consume?
Um, to be honest, that's a loaded question because any day it could change. So today, because we're going into the new season, and the fall is already here, and we're definitely in fall, but we can feel the weather change here in California now. I boosted up on some elderberry. and sarsaparilla. I put those two together. So the elderberry is to help me with the immunity, to make sure we can fight. We got antioxidants in there. Most berries have antioxidants. And then the sarsaparilla was to help me build up my blood flow, to increase my iron count, so blood can flow more freely through my body, which also will help me not be cold too, right? You know.
Mm.
So those two right now are my go-tos. Truth be told, as soon as we're done, I'm gonna brew me a nice tea, a nice cup, and have that. And then in the morning, I'll have that as well. But like I said, that could be relative to the day. After I had my son, it was red raspberry because that gave a strength to the uterus. It also helped purify the blood. Stinging nettle, which would release a lot of the free radicals in your blood and get those out. Black walnut hull, which could be a detoxifier. Wormwood, which could release the worms out of your gut, like literally the worms that are in your gut can release
Mm.
all those. So, um, favorite herb, um, I couldn't necessarily say. It's a day in and day out, but it's always good to be knowledgeable about mostly all of them. Or
Mm-hmm.
not mostly all of them. It's good to know what's in your area, because while you out, if you get bit by a snake, it would be good to know. Or if you get gored by something, it'd be good to know that you can put some yarrow on something and you can make a salve, right? Like
Yep.
right there with a little bit of saliva, patch it up, can stop the bleeding and can help close the wound, right?
Yeah. My favorite herb is lavender.
Nice and relaxing. That'll relax you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lavender, chamomile, and a little bit of catnip. Truth be told, lavender, chamomile, and catnip with a little bit of lemon balm is what I give my son when I really want him to go to sleep.
I was
Now, does it
unaware.
always work? He a little bit stronger than them herbs, but it eventually works.
I was unaware that humans can consume catnip.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes,
Is
we
it?
can.
Does it have some sort of like effect as like smoking marijuana or consuming like some THC?
No, but it is. It does. It is a mild sedative. It's a relaxant. It is a mild sedative. It will relax you. I have never chose to add fire to catnip, so I'm not sure. But I know if you brew it, it's a good relaxer. You could throw the same concoction I just told you. Us adults could use that. Lavender, catnip, lemon balm, and a little chamomile. Take them right on out the door. You and I both be asleep, mouth open.
Mm-hmm.
But we also go to work. We got, like I say, my son a little bit stronger than them herbs, but it's gonna take us out.
Speaking of your son, you did mention earlier that you are a mother.
Yes, my greatest
How
joy.
how has motherhood inspired your growth?
Um, Honestly, um, it's inspired my growth because I know that I have someone looking to me, but it's also hindered my growth because um, I didn't understand that where I was maybe a few months ago. I didn't accept that I was going to be there at that time. So I had a lot of, I fought my way. Motherhood has been beautiful. He's inspired me to do great things, but I haven't put those things into motion. So I feel like I'm kind of letting him down, if you will, you know. But he doesn't see it, and I know that that's not the actual truth, and to not beat myself up about it. So that's the self growth part too. Got to get back into, you know, what what it was is not what it's going to be. What it is what you put action to. So I'm gonna put action into being um, more strategic when it comes to parenting him and myself, being honest with myself. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I hope you will be able to achieve those experiences that you're hoping to experience at some point. And what would you care to elaborate on these uh, these experiences that you hope to experience?
Um, right now it's like a work in progress. So to in or it, I can't actually elaborate. It's because I'm truly in the it's happening right now. Like as we speak, it's happening. It's like a transformation. And also for myself, not only can I can't articulate it because it's happening, but I find that most of the time when I am articulating something, it's coming with that gift to gab that I was telling you about that I could have. Um, so excuse my language. Sometimes if I speak it out, it's all bullshit. So in order to do it, I prefer to move out of the talking phase of my journey and get more into the action phase of my journey. So I think that's possibly why I really can't articulate it because being at a loss for words is truly new to me. But I also know that that's part of the growth that I want to see within myself because
Mm-hmm.
I always have a rebuttal for something. But always saying something back isn't always the best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to listen to actually hear and not to respond. And sometimes you have to just sit in silence because from the silence comes a lot of good, great ideas. And if I'm always talking, I'm not silent, right?
Yeah. Someone told me you can't talk and listen at the same time.
It's virtually impossible, which is what I tell my mother.
Well, hopefully she'll adopt the guidance that you've given her.
Indeed, I say.
um, okay. Well, we're gonna transition on to the next segment of the podcast.
Okay.
Um, but before we do that, I am hearing a little bit of static. So would you mind Rashida logging out and coming back in? Because that seems like that's what the solution is.
Okay. I got you right now.
All right. And while she's doing that, I'm going to give you guys a brief rundown of our next segment. It's called the Multiple Intelligence Theory. This is a segment that I share each episode. And so when it comes to intellect, there's two popular theories. One is more popular than the other, um, and is widely adopted. The first the first the first theory suggests that we as individuals have three forms of intellect. Those three forms of intellect are naturalistic, or also known as scientific, linguistic, also known as like
That.
writing smart. Oh, there you are.
Yes, indeed.
And you're okay, cool, cool. Okay, so I was just briefly giving a rundown of this multiple intelligence theory
Okay.
to the audience. So when it comes to intellect, there's two popular theories. One is more popular than the other. The first theory, which is the most popular, suggests that we have three forms of intellect as individuals, such as naturalistic or scientific, logical, mathematical, and thirdly, linguistic, also known as writing or reading smart. And this theory was presented by a theorist named, I think his name is Frederick Beignet.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's an alternative theory. Oh, and before I go further, so based on this theory being widely adopted, particularly like in academic institutions, when we are transitioning from the high school level onto the collegiate level, we are tested on these three forms of intellect
Okay.
in the form of a SAT exam. Depending on how well you score, um, the results would suggest, based on this theory, of how intellectually advanced you are.
Okay.
However, there's an alternative theory which was presented by a theorist named Howard Gardner, which suggests that in addition to the three mentioned intellects, there are um, six additional intellects that we as individuals possess,
Mm-hmm.
um, and do, and with practice and repetition, each one can be enhanced in degrees.
Okay.
And so the six additional ones are musical,
Mm-hmm.
existential, which is like spiritual smart,
Mm-hmm.
interpersonal,
Mm-hmm.
also known as people smart, bodily kinesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
body smart, intrapersonal,
Mm-hmm.
self smart,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's spatial intelligence.
Yeah.
So similar to someone who has who's skilled at architecture or interior design. They know how to navigate the spaces in the three-dimensional world.
A master of feng shui.
Yes. So this is the multiple intelligence theory, and the intentionality for presenting this theory on the podcast is because it's possible that people out there may have low self esteem because they may not have high degrees of mathematical, scientific, or reading skills, but they may actually have high degrees in the six additional,
Mm-hmm.
which, if they are aware of this, could help to boost self esteem and also inspire them to want to uh, grow each one of these intellects through putting forth an effort to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question to you, Rasheeda, is of the nine multiple intelligences, which one or more would you sense you have high degrees in, and uh, how would you suggest to listeners, based on your experience, that they can also enhance these intellects that you have high degrees in?
Honestly, I don't know how to say what someone how someone could expand on something. I know what works for myself, and I like to kind of have a base knowledge of everything, but things that you're strong in is just your strengths are your strengths and your weaknesses are just that. You could work to improve a weakness. Let's just say if I know I just can't pick up a 10-pound dumbbell, I know that I can always pick up a 2-pound dumbbell, and over the course of maybe 4 to 6 weeks, with repetition of lifting that same 2-pound dumbbell, I can build up the muscle memory to at least be able to pick up the 10-pound dumbbell once, right? But
Yes.
that doesn't mean that I'm a master at it. That means I had to actually work at it, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
now I at least have the base understanding and the base knowledge of to be able to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, I think I'm music for sure.
Mm.
Because so life is an energy, right? Or this is
Yes.
what I believe life to be. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, Energy is something that never dies. It can only
Mm.
be transferred.
Mm-hmm.
So just like we're still listening to Sam Cooke, and just like we're still listening to Beethoven, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
all music, right? This is a sound and a frequency that will be heard, that will last the test of time, right?
Mm. Yes.
So music is one for me because I understand sound. I understand when I walk in the room and I say, "Hey, everybody," and everybody say, "Hey, hey, this is a low vibrational room." But let's just say, Norm on Cheers. When Norm walked in the room, he said, "Afternoon, everybody." Norm, right? So you understand that sound. So I can from I might not can tell by your facial expression, but I can tell by the sound that you're giving off, whether it's authentic or inauthentic, whether if you're in a good mood or you're trying to mask something. You can hear somebody choking up in their voice, right? This is all sound. So for sure, I think music for me is possibly number one.
Mm-hmm.
And this could all still be relative to day, emotions, but right now, when I read it and when we were speaking, music always sticks out. That's the number one thing for myself. And I could say possibly my biggest strength, right? If it had to go with a strength and a weakness. The second one, I think it's the body kinesthetics, right?
Yes. Yes. Body
So
smart.
yes, so I understand my mind and my body, you know, and I'm still striving to always as I'm evolving as a person, I'm like right now, I'm still striving to understand my mind and my body. So I think I have that. Um, I'm honed on it. I'm honed in on it pretty good because, like I say, I can call bullshit myself first. You're probably not going to be able to call it on me. I know when I'm actually bullshitting, right?
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. The next one, of course, naturalist, right? Because the earth, right? The earth.
Yep. Yep.
Um, in order to actually go back to nature,
Mm-hmm.
that goes, I think the music and the nature, they kind of go together, because in
Mm-hmm.
nature, what do? You get sound, you get frequency, you get vibration, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those two probably go together. And or if I had to go with numbers, I would go musical, and then naturalist, and then probably the body kinesthetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
um I think that gift to gab part I was talking about. So linguistics,
Mm-hmm.
um, I can I believe I have the ability to articulate a sentence that expresses the way I feel, that can make you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the linguistics, right?
Yes.
And if I wanted to dive off into some bullshit, I could also do that and make you follow me as well. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's the linguistics part of it, and that's just me being very authentic and truthful with self, right? Because how else are we going to grow if we're not being authentic and truthful with self? Now, some things that I know that I'm not the best on,
Mm-hmm.
um, like the feng shui part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot which one that would have been.
Spatial.
Terrible at that. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably, if we have a weakness, that's it. That's
Mm-hmm.
and the interpersonal. I know I have the intrapersonal. I know myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was recently scammed for quite a bit of money. So clearly I don't have that. Because I couldn't call his bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't call it. It was a lawyer. It was a little different. It wasn't just like that. But as I told the story to people, they kind of were like, "Yeah, you didn't see that coming," and it was just like, "No," and it was like, "Yeah, kind of game goofy there, buddy. That's not a good one." So the the interpersonal skills, maybe I could brush up a little bit better on that, so negative things won't happen to me again. So the spatial, I would say for sure a weakness. Um, the interpersonal, I could do better at. And it's just all I liked when you sent me this graph too. I just want to speak on that. This is not my first time hearing about these things. This is not my first time conversing about them. However, looking at them now, I'm looking at it through a different lens, right? So hopefully, your favorite movie when you're 10, when you go back and you look at it when you're 30, you realize that that movie actually really was bomb, and it's even better because you have a better understanding of life now, right? The
Yeah.
stuff that like Home Alone. I'm just saying that because my son likes Home Alone. We all know that Home Alone is a classic, but as I actually sit back and watch it now, as a 43-year-old adult, it's like this was really the bomb. Like it's just so many facets that we just didn't see. All we saw was him, you know, Kevin rolling on the rope and him making the robbers pay. Right? It's bigger to the bigger parts of the story. Love, family, independence. It has a lot of stuff going on in there, right? But you don't see that as a 10-year-old. You just see the fun, right? He
Yeah.
put the aftershave on his face, right? Like all of that. You just see that. So looking at this graphic, at this age and at this space that I'm in, is I'm gonna actually use it to get better on things myself in my personal life, right? Because now
Yeah.
I can see where I have some weaknesses, and now I can see where I have some strengths. But I also feel like that's just the road that needs to just converge like this, right?
Yeah.
Because some things that I may be strong in, it could be a weakness one day,
Mm-hmm.
and some things that I'm weak at, it can show to be a strength that day because I'm working on it, right? I'm ever changing, I'm constantly growing. So something that's a weakness today could actually be a strength later on.
Yes. Yes. And if you enhance those quote unquote weaknesses, um, it could be uh, sometimes vital
Mm-hmm.
given the circumstance, especially if it's unexpected. And I think these unexpected situations are presented to us so that we can stay out of that comfort zone anyway, because someone told me the mind operates at its optimum when presented with unknown, unexpected situations.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It actually, and it also shows the core of the person, like the grit. You know what I'm saying? Because if you walk
Mm-hmm.
and you just do the same thing every day, we kind of get lost. But now, when I'm faced with the unknown, you actually have to use critical thinking skills. You gotta, you kind of go into fight or flight mode. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I almost want to say with confidence that we all want to live. So we're gonna always fight, right? I
Mm-hmm.
got 10% too. I know. I just didn't want to. I don't want it to cut off on you. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay. So, just real quick, I'm gonna say that for me, I feel like since I have a high degree of interpersonal, which is people smart
Hmm.
intellect, and how I would suggest people enhance that is through demonstrating. Oh, she went off. Oh, here she comes. Okay, you
Okay,
back.
my bad, my bad. Yeah, my
Yeah.
bad.
So enhance your interpersonal intelligence, people smart, you have to firstly have a willingness to be unconditional in your
Hmm.
engagements with people. Because if you're willing to be unconditional in terms of how people will react to your engagements, then that will help you to be more aware and receptive of the reflections of your engagement. So if I say hello to someone and they don't respond back, like it's easy to like start to conjure in my head the possibilities of why they may have not said hello to me. But rather than doing that, don't fall in that temptation, because ultimately I can't read anybody's mind,
Hmm.
but more just be content with how they reacted and realize that that interaction was a case by case situation, and use that experience to as a tool for when you try it again with someone else. And I think over time, with practice and repetition, their perspective of people will start to enhance.
Hmm.
Um, because it's possible that I may say hello to someone else and they may say hello back to me.
Yeah.
And
That,
so then that just, based on that, that shows me that indicates to me that people are different,
hmm.
different mindsets. And it would also seem that people grow at different rates. Like, we're all in the present moment if I see you and I'm talking to you, but to have an expectation of how someone is going to behave is starting to put conditions on the interaction, which can hinder the
hmm.
growth
The
of
growth.
that particular intellect. So
Absolutely.
based on logic,
Hmm.
it would seem that overall I would encourage everyone to be unconditional about the way they choose to interact and engage with the world. And sort of like breathing, like I provide the world with carbon dioxide unconditionally, and
Hmm.
hopefully the world will reciprocate unconditionally and provide me with more oxygen for me to breathe and grow.
And
And
grow.
so, yeah, so I would just say try to be unconditional in the way you engage with the world, and I think you'll be able to enhance your awareness and grow your intellects overall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one little thing too, because I'm sorry that the time ran. My computer wasn't working uh for this particular thing, and I didn't have the wherewithal to actually charge up my phone full blast before we started. So
Hmm.
I apologize, but you did ask me about a quote. Um,
Hmm.
so I've been walking in my neighborhood recently, and as I walked past this, what used to be a Davidas dialysis center,
Yeah.
it's no longer is, but it has a slogan out there. And as I was reading it, it made me think I liked it. But the slogan was, "So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the entire earth." Right?
Hmm.
And the person that said that is Buha U'ala, Buha Ulawa. And he is a person who was born in the Middle East in the 1800s. and he was perceived to be a messenger of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not on the whole religious standpoint of it, but when you think in life, even through this path of self growth, we need a community. We need unity. We need to come together. And
Mm-hmm.
how bright would that light actually be? It can illuminate the entire earth, right? So
Yes.
I feel like that's really powerful. And if we keep that thought process, and we are very meticulous and thoughtful within our actions and our movements, the world can actually be a better place. Not just for you and I, but for our children and for our children's children, right?
Yes. And I appreciate the quote. I could relate to that. I think, from my perspective, when it comes to unity, it seems that unity is a choice by
Hmm.
the individual to want to participate in uniting with someone else. So I would say, don't be discouraged if you encounter people who do not want to live in harmony
And
with the way you're conducting yourself. But also you can, but also still have a openness in your heart to that possibility of manifesting at some point, and so that you won't be discouraged and to continue on growing yourself, because I do believe it seems like there is I like to use the term the possibility of reflection, meaning
hmm
that if I conduct myself a certain way, it's possible that I may encounter an experience, a circumstance that's reflective of my initiation.
hmm
So if I am intentionally being kind and generous and helpful to people, it's possible that I may encounter that reflection, which
right
would
back.
which
Absolutely.
could result in me encountering someone who wants to relate or be inspired to have a relationship with me, which ultimately could create a chain of unification amongst individuals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I believe that, and I believe if we live our lives that mirror with what you said, if I'm a light and you're a mirror of me, that means you're a light, and then vice versa, and so on and so on. And now we're all just one big light, right?
Yes,
Indeed. But also be aware and be receptive to those that don't want to be the light. And just and don't let them block the reflection, right? Just keep
yes.
going. Just keep shining.
So finally, we reached the end of the podcast. I'm going to read this interpreting expression segment quote. So I picked a quote that related to myself, and the intention for this is to share it with the featured guest, and hopefully our interpretations of the quote uh, can be relatable to one another, and we could use the interpretations as a resource to continue our journeys of self growth. And hopefully, the interpretations will also be relatable to the listeners.
Hmm.
So today's expression is the universe can the universe can replace what exits your life with experiences that are beneficial.
Hmm.
Don't get stuck holding on to the past or resisting change by welcoming new energy, by letting go of what needs to be removed. Blessings can be received if there's a willingness to openness.
I say.
Rasheeda, how would you, so it's a two-part question. How would you relate, no, I'm sorry. How would you interpret this expression, and how would it relate to yourself?
Well, the universe taking things out of your life, um, and putting what needs to be in there. That's um, reflective of everybody's. I can say that's like reasons and seasons. Some people come to stay. Some people come real fast and they go. And but you learned something. They were very impactful, right? So I feel like that's the truth. What was the next part about you said the universe exits? I wanted to answer each piece because I also really don't want my phone to cut off on you in
Right,
mid.
right, right.
Yeah.
It says, don't get stuck holding on to the past or resisting change by welcoming new energy.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
So by yes, so I'm accepting in new. So the universe has taken something away from me, but it's bringing in something new, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
can't get stuck on what I used to have. Um, and I know this could be a horrible analogy, but I've had some very close friends that have that someone really dear to them has transitioned into the next life. And, you know, 20, 25 years later, they're still holding on to it. Not to say that they shouldn't, but they're blocking that new energy that's supposed to come in because they're holding on to that now. I'm not saying that death doesn't affect people in certain ways and things like that, but you can't allow it's just the energy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you hold on to that energy, you're not allowing that new energy to come in and fill you up so you can continue on and keep moving, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that person that you may be mourning or that situation that you may not have flourished in was just for that season, right? So you can't keep holding on to it because you're not allowing yourself to grow. That's not
Yes.
what self growth is. This quote is indicative of what self growth actually is. You know.
Yes. And I would say I said my interpretation of it is uh focus focus well, I like to say be aware of what's aware of me.
Mhm.
And I think like, well, if these situations are no longer present to me, it would seem like it happened for a reason. And I'm aware that these circumstances are out of my control. And so it seems that these circumstances have transitioned out of my viewpoint because something or someone had an intention to do so.
Mhm.
And so, it, yeah, so just, it's out of my control and be aware of what is aware of me and
Yes.
how it's relatable to me. It's relatable to me going back to the most recent political event
Mhm.
where I'm a part of a group chat with some family members, and a lot of them voted a certain way, and they were displeased with the outcome of the presidential election, and it seems like some of them were speculating on what the result of the election would be,
Mhm.
to a point where it seemed like they were afraid and frightened.
Mhm.
Um, and I think for me, it is possible to focus on what should have happened, what could happen, or what is happening.
Right.
Um, so I like to focus on what is happening, and
Right.
what's happened presently is that I have a job, I'm in good health, I have a place to live,
Mhm.
and I'm thankful for the opportunity
Mhm.
to navigate in the present moment how I currently am. And so I'm not going to focus on any other way because I feel like if I do that, now I am self-distracting myself from
Mhm.
what I am being blessed with.
Right.
And so as long as I am having the opportunity to grow and be content and happy with my current situation,
Mhm.
that that's what matters to me.
That's the only thing that's important. Right.
Yeah, so blessings can be received if there's a willingness to openness.
Mhm.
I'm open to whatever may come, whatever I may attract, and so hopefully, based on how I'm conducting myself, I will continue to experience reflections of my intentional, healthy behavior,
Right.
and what will be, and so
Ashe.
that's my interpretation of it.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely don't. I definitely don't want this to cut off. We probably got 5 minutes tops.
Okay, well that's all we need because
Yeah.
you know uh, we're wrapping up now. I thank everyone for tuning in. Um, Thank you, Rasheeda, for
Thank you for having me. I really
yeah,
appreciate it, Brother Kite. I do. And I want to implore the listeners to follow Netaru Nutrition and Juices on Instagram. Be very aware because we coming back. We coming with a vengeance. And water the plant within, you know. Stay healthy.
yes. And yeah, I hope you will continue to have experience continued success with your business venture, and I hope that the way you are um, handling your business will inspire other up and coming entrepreneurs to emulate your behavior. Yeah, so I thank everyone for tuning in. Rasheeda, if you can hang on briefly before as we close out.
Okay.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I thank everyone for tuning in. I hope everyone will enjoy the rest of the evening. I appreciate you all. This concludes the Journey of Self Growth podcast episode 24.
Absolutely, absolutely. Namaste and ashe. Health and wellness, peace and abundance.
All that. Okay.
All
Good
right.
night, y'all.